The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewer, welcome to our today's episode on your favorite show Chungu cha Jamii with me Kate Waliaro. Now as usual we have these beautiful programs for you. Today we are talking about teen pregnancies. I know this is more of a pandemic that has hit Kenya. Currently it has been ranked number 3 globally with this menace, and you can imagine, I'm sure you know someone around you or a young girl around you who has, a child or is pregnant, meaning this thing is rampant, and we're here to talk about it and we see how we can help out in maybe one way or another so that we can bring down and reduce this menace. Hey, najua saa hizi Nairobi and different areas it's really cold, sindio? And najua hii ni recipe part of these things, but we are here with some very beautiful ladies with me and who are also very passionate about this program, and also they want to help us and give us the information that we need so that we learn and we get to beat this, because we can't continue like this. Pregnancies, a lot of dreams get to be broken, a lot of health issues get to happen, and things are not supposed to be like that. And now on this note I wish to introduce to you our guests so that you know them and you hear from them. My dear.
Hello, I'm Mercy De La Vive Jokwait from the University of Nairobi. I'm here as an SRHR advocate. Respect.
Hello, I'm Dr. Crystal Serena Vulavu, also with the same organization, Project Respect, and I'm happy to be here, and I hope that we can have a fruitful discussion today.
Yeah, I'm believing that this talk is going to generate a lot of heat here because, hey, it's very cold in Nairobi. You can also see, Black trying to generate some heat here. Make sure you're joining us on this conversation on all our social media handles at GBS TV Africa, and in our social media SMS line 21144. Make sure you're joining in and sending in your comments, your questions, so that we learn and we educate each other. So regarding teen pregnancies, we've seen globally we are ranked number 3. And I've seen this is also a problem that is not only in Kenya, it's also in many other countries here in Africa. Yes. We have Rwanda and currently who are also organizing about the same problem. Yes. So I'm wondering, is it that maybe Kenya we've gone so low morally or economically, things are so bad that these young girls have to go trying to seek pads and paying off with themselves? So we want to understand what are the causes and what exactly, maybe for someone who is wondering what is this teen pregnancy, what is it and what are the causes?
Yeah, personally I feel the rampant issue is because girls are being misguided. They don't have information, they lack the proper information to know what is going on with their bodies, and they end up falling prey to predators who are giving them misinformation. Like, there's an example, a friend of mine gave me an example. A guy comes, tells a girl, ati niko safe. Yeah, ati when it's like, let's have sex.
The guy is safe.
Let's have sex. Ati, and then it's like, we don't have to use a condom, I'm safe. Then the lady doesn't know because hana information, and they end up having sex. Like, a girl knows if someone is safe, I want to get pregnant. And the guy's like, yeah, okay, sawa. If you're safe, ni sawa. Yeah, like, it's a lot of misinformation, and these ladies don't have information. Yeah.
Okay. Serena.
Yes. So I think it's what she said, and it also has, it's a very complicated thing. We can't just approach it as, because there's factions that say we are an immoral society, and it's because we have, abandoned our morals and all these. And that may be a factor, a contributing factor, but it's not the only factor. There's also misinformation, the way she said. And then you find that there are places where it's still sort of a cultural thing. You know, where people are moving on from what they used to do long ago, where early marriage, child marriages were prevalent. So people are still moving on from that mindset to now keeping girls in school, keeping adolescents in school for longer, and you find that sometimes this overlaps. That's also something that contributes, especially you'd say in the more far-flung counties. So it's a culmination of so many factors that, you know, it's appropriate that today's program is called Chungu, because all these things are within this pot. And it's up to us to, you know, pick them out one by one and try to figure out how to solve each of these things without necessarily either pointing fingers or blaming, you know, victims and things like that, because then when we approach it from that point of view, then it becomes more of a divisive issue than now us trying to seek solutions to solving the problem.
Okay, I'm also thinking of this other issue. You've talked of immorality and misinformation, and I'm thinking of a lot of these girls. If you've listened to the many stories that they give, someone will say a relative did this to them.
Yes.
A grown man, like 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, another, you know. But for the peers, the ones who are the young boys their age, most of them ni wachache, let me say. So when it comes to the moral decadence, where did we lose the step that tunaweza enda kufikia watoto wachanga kiasi kile, as in grown men, going for 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds and taking advantage of them? You know, even when it comes to immorality, it beats me, because you can imagine a 14 or even a 10-year-old. You've heard of even 10-year-olds.
Yes.
This is a girl that is, you know, very young. Even physically looking at her, there is nothing to be desired out of them. But then a 40-year-old is praying such a young girl. What are they looking for in these young children? Are there maybe some weird beliefs that they believe that if I go with this child, maybe something will happen? Or what is pushing them to that far?
So like you've said, one, some of them have some of these beliefs. You know, like if you have sex with a young child, a girl who's either early teenage or even not yet in teenage, if you have HIV and you have sex with a small girl, then you'll be cured. There are those that have such beliefs. But then I think the majority of them is just... I'd say it's a byproduct of society, because if you look at them, if you look at people on Twitter, for example, they keep chasing the next younger thing. Unajua, you can only chase young until ikishafika 20. Now you will start looking for younger. You start, if you're 18, you go younger. Even when there's been debate about the age of sexual consent in the country and in other countries, and you'd hear, for example, a country is raising it from a country that had it at 13 and bringing it to 16. You'd find even Kenyan men, kwenye over here our age of consent is 18. You'd find Kenyan men still saying even 16 ni sawa, alafu wanachochana. You know, these are things that people, we try to, we hide ourselves in, like, you know, you think, I can't do that, it could never be me. But then the way conversation takes place in society, if you don't call it out, for example, the person next to you is talking like that, and you tell them, excuse me, that's not a good thing, then you encourage it passively. And then the more this thing is propagated, the more it then now you find people are saying, for example, Della here, to say she's 22. People start telling her, by the way, now you're old. You know, so now it's a thing at your mnazeka. Suddenly someone who's 25, who's perfectly young, is suddenly too old. Because Nikitu encouraged in society for so long, we've stopped seeing how bad it is until now you hear on the news that a 13-year-old has been defiled, and then now you want to act angry.
I remember there was this debate recently, I don't remember when, but it was in Parliament, regarding that consent age being reduced, I think, to 16. So you can imagine, already the society is trying to normalize and to bring lower the age to accommodate the rot that is there.
Exactly. You see, we're talking about teenage pregnancy and how it's a problem. But then the same people will defend lowering the age by saying that, you see, even 13-year-olds are already pregnant. They're already having sex, so let them have sex legally. So instead of trying to solve the problem, they're trying to make it accommodate their... Yes, exactly. You see, now that's where the disconnects come up in society, and that's why now we have to be very aware and try to call them out.
That's true.
Yeah.
What about the social social media, what effect does it have on this whole thing?
Wacha yangi natuambia.
Yeah.
I feel for social media there's a lot of influence. Like young people have phones right now, and with phones you can access everything. Now wanafunzi wanachochana huko, like they see what other people are doing out there, and they're like, yeah, we can also do this. And there's no one to guide them, because you know our parents can't control what we're doing on our phones, and that's where upon they will not kuharibika per se, but that's where they get all this from, and they're influenced to go ahead and do what the rest are doing, the rest of the world.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of exposure in social media, and
and social media has normalized this.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
so normal.
Sex is so normal, and you can imagine sex sells. You know, these days sex sells. I remember there was a time there was a billboard here in Roysambu some time back. It was on gas, you know, the mtungia gas.
Yeah.
And then there was a lady there whose feet, you know, long. You can see they're trying to sell gas, but in a very sexual way.
Yeah.
So sex has been normalized. Everywhere you turn, you know, everyone is selling sex, you know, and that is what is appealing the society. And I think it has a lot of effects, because I think the body, how it has been created, it just gets aroused. Doesn't matter at what point. It's really affecting our children. And regarding economic status of a lot of parents today, do you think it has an effect on how now the children, maybe my parents are supposed to buy me pads, they're supposed to buy, avail all the things I need as a girl, but now that even food whenever they're going to school, but now these things are not, the basic needs are not availed for children going to school. So in that way they will choose to.
People come in saying, okay, I buy you pads and you give me sex in exchange, because definitely these girls don't have the money to afford the sex, and the most they can give is their bodies, and this is what the predators want. So they take advantage of the fact that they don't have the money in exchange for the pads, because for a girl that is something necessary. Without them, it's just messy, and they take advantage of that. And it's sad that it's always the older guys doing this. Most of the predators are older than these girls. They know what they're doing, but the ladies don't know what they're doing. They're still naive. They don't have information. These guys have information, but they choose to take advantage of the girls. It's just sad.
You said you're running a program, an organization that is wholly maybe on this matter.
Yes.
Okay, are there things maybe that your initiatives that you have to help with such issues? Because some of these issues, like the one we've just talked about on the economic status of a lot of parents, they are not able to support their children fully, and they find themselves as victims. Are there maybe initiatives by the government or by you people and others that are trying to provide them maybe the sanitary towels, maybe providing lunch at school?
Well, that's so yes, there's initiatives from all sectors, I'd say. So from government, from religious, from civil society, from international NGOs, everyone has put in a bit of effort to try and solve one of, because you remember we've been talking about the many issues that are that are contributing towards teenage pregnancy. So and I'd say that the most I've seen, most people would approach this like the way you'd say from an economic point of view, and would come and have like a pad drive in a place, and that is a commendable effort. However, it's a very short-term stopgap, because if you give someone, let's say, 3 packs of pads, that's gonna last them maximum 3 months, to say maximum. Then after those 3 months, what are they going to do next? You know, are you going to come back to give them pads for the next month, or are you now going to leave them? You know, you gave them pads, and it's, you know, so yes, you are addressing a need, but then I think also for the many people that have been involved within that space, we need to also transition to a more long-term, a more sustainable approach to that. So for example, what we do at our organization Respect is to hold informative sessions for the adolescents, and we don't just limit it to the girls, because pregnancy involves two people.
That's exactly.
You know, and a lot of people will focus on the girl,
Yeah.
and then the boys are left not knowing. Because this boy who's 15 today will be 20 in 5 years,
Yeah.
and will still want a 15-year-old. You know, so if you don't address these things in a very multifaceted, looking at it from all angles, then you know, you end up creating a bit more gaps. So yes, we've had churches are running. Churches are much better in the social support aspect of this prevention, I'd say. So where you find, if they find victims of sexual abuse, they'd host them, they'd take care of them. Mission hospitals would treat them at a subsidized fee. You have the church doing that. You have international NGOs doing a lot of studies and setting up, for example, projects and incubators for like self-help groups, employment for young mothers. You have other CSOs. I'd say we fall within a CSO sort of, where we now provide education, and then but the buck would still fall on the government because they're citizens of the country, and that's where we end up seeing, I think, in my opinion, the least input from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Mercy.
Yes.
I'm listening to her and I'm wondering. Usually they will provide free condoms.
Yeah.
And put them in. And I remember in my university there was a lot of condoms. But then when you think about the schoolgirl who is already maturing and really needs, it's actually a basic need to have a sanitary towel. I don't know, is there such initiatives maybe by the government that maybe they plan to do this? Ama iyo tusahau tu.
So far I've not heard of any. I'm not sure about that. But the ones about providing condoms, okay, as much as in school, personally, in your end, as much as they're providing condoms and okay, achana, in the community as well, sex has been stigmatized to the fact that people are shy to still access these things. Like when you go buy a CD, people are like, huh, you're having sex. So people are still shy to talk about it. Sex is still stigmatized, and we have to have this conversation so that it becomes normal and people stop shying away from these things so that you can use them freely. Yeah.
Because when you talk of it that way, since I grew up and I understood this stuff with sex, and I've always seen the campaigns, the safe sex campaigns. And do you think they are working anyway, or they are ineffective?
Yeah, that is. They're effective at some point, because when you see when people are given information, when you have information and you're able to talk about it freely, yeah, to some extent it's helping, because now the fact that you can have that conversation and people know what they're doing and go ahead and do these things. So it's better. It's better that there's the safe sex campaign, and it's helping. I feel like a few people are taking initiatives. Yeah. Well, the rest, most rural areas are now affected.
When you say it's reaching some people,
yeah.
When you look at the problem at hand, as in it's been increasing day by day. You look from the time after the lockdown, as in the moment children were released, it was so shocking that children in the Kakamega County, the Machakos County, all these counties, Nairobi, we discovered that things had just watered down. A lot of children did not go back to school. They had become parents. Yet, we used to watch TV and there are those campaigns when it gets to 10 p.m. or something. I think they were restricted to that time. But then,
on that note, so personally I feel when these girls were in school, most of the time, before lockdown, most of them were spending, most of the time they spend in school. Like normally it's like teachers are foster parents and they're in school. They spend most of the time in school. But now during lockdown, these girls came back home, and clearly we saw after lockdown, that is when more girls were getting pregnant. So in my opinion, from how things were, during lockdown, people were home with their, like they were home, they were in the community, maybe with their relatives, big uncles and maybe fathers, which is sad at some point. So these actual people are the ones who are abusing the girls when they were locked down, because they're the same people spending more time with the girls during lockdown compared to when they're in school.
And people are idle.
So it's like during lockdown when people are sent back home, now left to the world, or these ladies were left to the world.
Yeah. My dear viewer, I hope you are coming along into this conversation, and we've had the very many causes of the teen pregnancies. One of them being misinformation, where you receive information that is not right, and especially for these young children who are not at the age of understanding sex and all that. And there's also social media, which has allowed children to get the information that they are not supposed to be getting. There's also peer pressure, like you said. So there's a lot that is going on, and many things that are causing it is first of all, there's also the economic status of parents who are not able to help their children, and they get to be preyed by immoral humans, let me call them so. So at this point, you have a clear picture of what is causing all this. But then moving forward, we are going to continue talking about it and see how maybe the government is working, how we can help each other so that we can beat this menace. So on this note, we wish to take a short break. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back.
GBS.
Welcome back, my dear viewer. We continue with our conversation on teen pregnancies here in Kenya, and we've seen that it's a serious problem that we have. A lot of children have become parents already. Children having children. Do you get even that one? Children having children. And we can see the many causes that have pushed them into becoming parents, yet they are not ripe for, they are still being parented. They don't even know anything yet. Mtu anashtuka tu, I'm a parent to a child and I'm a child, So before we went on break, we were talking about the issues on lockdown that brought so many issues, and at the end of the day we found that there was the number had risen so badly, and it shows that maybe at home children are not safe, or maybe parents are not doing their part, the society is not doing its part. Serena, nini iliendelea nyumbani ukifikiria?
So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, and the loudest voice was that teenagers have been home this whole time instead of being in school. They've been more exposed to their society, to the people around them, and all of a sudden you have this wave of teenagers that are pregnant. Who is making these teenagers pregnant? And it's been a combination of their fellow teenagers and also adults at home. and adults are family people, relatives, people within the neighborhood, people that work within the homesteads. It's been, and the biggest issue that came out of this was, why are these adults that are around children that are supposed to be protecting, teenagers, now being the ones taking advantage of them? So it raised, yes, there was the issue of teenage pregnancy. Yes, there was the issue of, early sexual debut and children having sex at a young age. But the biggest issue that came out of that was just how rampant abuse has become in our society, and that we did not either pick it out because most of them were in boarding school and now everyone was at home. It just blew up. So yes, it pointed out to a very big issue of abuse within our society. And then that begs the question, what are we going to do about it? Because it's one thing to find a problem, and then once you have the problem, you cannot then sit and lament the problem. And the biggest enabler of abuse in our communities that has come out has been that, yes, we identify that it was my neighbor that made my daughter pregnant, but then, or ata tuseme your uncle, sindio, like my brother impregnates my daughter. The most logical step, the best step would be to pursue action, get him prosecuted. But you find a lot of families within our community will say, let us solve this within the home. Kuja tuonge, sijui, afainiwe ngombe wangapi, how many mbuzi, and then the issue becomes hush inanyamaziwa. But you see, when you do that, that's a predator that's still on the loose. Tomorrow it won't be my daughter, tomorrow it will be your daughter. And then what will happen? The next day it will be someone else's daughter. So we as a community also need to look back at how are we resolving these things when they come to light, because a lot of the girls that you find, for example, that we've interacted with over the past several years, as we go to high schools, because our target audience for organization is usually high school students, they'll call you aside after sessions and say, yes, this is happening either at my home, at my neighbor's home, or like this and like this. And when you find out what happened to the predators, then they say, oh no, like ni aibu kwa familia if uncle so and so or so and so's father or sijui which policeman, which chief, which influential person comes out as a predator. So it's kept under wraps, and the more you're doing this, then the more young children you're exposing. And these predators don't just target the girls. So you'll see it in the girls because they'll get pregnant. What about the boys that are being abused by the same predators? You don't get to see that. They get a lot of stigma. So it's something that really need to address as a society.
That's true. The society has been an enabler, as you said it. They are there, saying that you've brought shame to the society, or if we open up this, it will bring shame because there's a relative having done this to our child. And I've seen that a lot in the society, where people will just cover it up because it's bringing shame. And then again, I've seen families or a lot of people who will go and victimize the victim. And ambiwa, you didn't dress right, ulikaa kama miguu iko open, like you invited your abuser, and a lot of children get to be victimized, and the burden is placed on them that you are the cause of what befell you. And that's how the society is enabling this, and continually we can see this rising up, because hey, this culprit alienda tu hivyo free. And Mercy, I'm thinking huyu mtoto, when the deed is done, the child gets a child, and this child has to be relying on a child, and the bigger child has to rely on other people. And how does it affect these two lives?
Okay, first there's the issue of mental health. Definitely this child who is a mother will be affected mentally, because there's the stigma that comes with it. Kwanza kuna hiyo ameblemiwa tayari, wende ulienda ukajionyesha. She has no one to talk to. Most of the time people don't want to talk about these things. It's clear people don't want to talk about this. And when you go talk about this, you are the problem. So you can't go seek help if you already know you'll be told you're the problem. So there's the issue of mental health, and this girl is clearly young. She's not anatomically able to give birth without any complications. So most of the time there's the complications during the delivery time. And the child who is also the child of the child atakuwa affected because hatakuwa anapata the correct care, because I'm a child, how do I take care of a child?
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's just messed up.
And now these are a person maybe who had a dream, who had a future, yet now imekatwa.
Yeah, in most cases hapo ndio wanakumalizia, like people give up on you and they don't look at the fact that after this child, yes, the child is already here. You can go ahead and pursue your dreams after here because the child is here and you can do nothing about it.
Yeah.
So let's accept that and let's support this child because this was a child that was preyed on. It's not her fault. She needs support, and if you give the child support, atakuwa mentally stable to go on with other things. Because now that akona mtoto tayari, the dreams are shattered, amesha give up, and that will be, and it will become a circle for her because now there's no one to support her, and chances are high she'll get a second child after huyu.
Third one and a fourth one.
Third one, it's just a circle.
Yeah, daktari, tuambie, are there, okay, the exact health risks that are involved in the teen pregnancies?
Yes. So, where to start? There's so many. But
tell us the ones that unajua tu hata mwenye anasikiza na anafikiria kuna kichale kina nini.
You know, like just even as let's just start from the actual pregnancy itself. Yeah, when you have a teenager conceiving and getting pregnant, that already in itself is a risk factor for, I'd say, usually there's a running joke in medical school, you know, like if there's a problem in pregnancy, one of the risk factors is young motherhood. Like it puts it puts you at risk of almost the entire spectrum, like of complications that arise in pregnancy, just because your body is still developing. You know, adolescence is when your body begins to get the ability to support a pregnancy. So all these structures are still not in place. So your organs, your pelvis is still very small, you know. So even when it comes to the delivery itself, you're at a higher chance of having to go to theater for a cesarean section, just because the child may not be able to pass properly.
Yeah.
And when you go to theater now, there's increased risks of bleeding. Even if the delivery is normal, there's higher chances of bleeding just because of damage to structures, because the baby is big and the mother is still small. Okay. Once let's say you get past the delivery process safely, now you come to where now the problems begin to affect both the mother and the child. When it comes to breastfeeding, is the mother capable of breastfeeding properly? Does she understand what it takes, you know, because breastfeeding takes a lot more than just putting the baby to the breast. There's what goes in nutritionally, there's what goes in psychologically. If you're not in a good place mentally, you're not able to feed your child properly. So if this girl is stressed, she has a baby, she's a child herself, she's not able to produce adequate milk, the baby gets underfed. You know, you find that we advise that babies are breastfed for up to 6 months. If the mother does not have milk, they start introducing cow's milk, water, you know, things to substitute for the baby. These substitutes bring a health risk to the infant. So you see, like, it's just jeopardy after, like, it's dominoes, you know, the odds are stacked against you and the baby. So what we see is that, like, when we see a lot of the mothers and the babies doing fine, it's usually like the best case scenario. We don't get to see a lot of the problems and the complications. And I think that's another thing that makes people think, si mtoto wa nani alizaa na alikuwa sawa. You know, so it's not such a big deal. But then when you actually think about what could go wrong at every step of the day, each day, then it becomes a really risky, like, pregnancy is a really risky thing, even for a healthy woman. So to subject children to that is not something that I'd consider humane, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen several girls get fistula.
Yes. So that's slipped my mind.
Fistula.
So fistula happens. You remember when I said injuries that you get when you're delivering, yeah? So when the baby is too big, and they have to be pushed out, so it causes a tear in the walls of the vagina, and sometimes it's so bad that it goes all the way to the rectum. So you find that now there's a communication between the passages, and in most cases such people face so much stigma, they are not able to even go to a hospital. So now, because there's a communication, when they want to go for a short call, for example, it comes out through both ends. So it causes incontinence. The same thing for a long call, you know. So now there's also transfer of, you know, like infections and things like that. So it just really complicates matters for the mother. And then you imagine you're getting this at 15.
And I've seen where someone, the urine and the feces is coming out constantly. Is that?
Yes, because now you see, like when you're pressed, there's a way you contain the urine and you contain the feces, But then now when these two are in communication, hapo kwa shimo where they're communicating, there's no sphincter for you to kaza as you wait to get to the washroom. So things are flowing, you know, it's like there's, ni kama hapa kwa super highway and then you get rid of the barrier in the middle. Traffic goes either way, Yeah, so it's not really, and it's a complicated thing to fix as well. So it's not, you know, it would take surgery and surgery and surgery. So it's really not something that that would be desirable for anyone. Yeah.
Wow, my dear viewer, you can hear for yourself that early and teen pregnancies is not something you want to subject anyone into, because there's a lot of complications that come along with it. You've heard for yourself the health complications, you know, the economic and the, you know, the normal effects that will even cause this child who has, you know, their dreams have been somehow demoted. They have no more dreams to dream unless you support them. You know, it's a sad affair. It's a very sad affair. I wish we take a break on this point, and don't go away. We'll be right back with more so that we can know how we can correct all this after it has been watered down. Is there hope? Is there hope for the children who have already given birth, and for those who are pregnant currently, and how we can avoid all this? Anyway, we'll be right back.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, my dear viewer. We continue this conversation on teen pregnancies, and we've seen how the causes of teen pregnancies and how they affect the lives of the very parents and people around them, and the health effects, the risks involved. It's not something I even want to think about. Now, going forward, we've seen the deed is done, let me call it so, and it's continuing because we've seen there's kuna muozo, let me call it muozo katika society, and we want to know, is there a most effective way, Mercy, that we can reduce these teen pregnancies or even beat it at its best?
Okay, personally, I feel for now, because first normally we have normalized telling these girls to abstain. Most of them are being told to abstain. When I'm growing up, I'm being told abstain. But you know, girls end up having sex anyway. So yeah, as much as we're telling these girls to abstain, let's also give them information with the thought that although we are telling them to abstain, there's a high chance these girls are having sex behind our backs. So when they're having this sex, are they having safe sex? Do they know what they're doing? And are they aware of what will happen if they don't have safe sex. Yeah, 'cause we are not encouraging sex. We're just looking at the fact that
It's happening.
as much as we are telling them to abstain, it's happening anywhere, and it's happening behind our backs. So yeah, the most we can do for now, let's give these girls information, yeah, comprehensive sexual education. But at the same time, let's not confuse comprehensive sexual education with sexual intercourse education, because people, yeah, people assuming that when you talk of introducing, there's a lot of debate. Like when you tell people let's introduce comprehensive sexual education, people are like, you're promoting promiscuity. Like now you're telling our girls to have sex, which is not the case. We're giving them information so that they know what they're doing if they find themselves in a situation where they're having sex, of which at the same time we are telling these girls more about, they'll have to know more about their bodies, boys and girls, so that they'll be aware when they're being abused. Because now they won't know, like lockdown, we saw what happened in lockdown. Unaweza pata most of these young girls, like a 10-year-old, 10, 13, hajui. I'm sure at 13 our society hatujambiwa most. Unaambiwa tu usionyeshane panty yako. Hiyo tu. So people like so when you tell that, yeah, so comprehensive sexual education, let's not stigmatize sex. Let's make it a normal conversation so that girls can know what is going on. They have
when
information.
we were young, we used to be told ukicheka na kijana utapata mimba.
Unavunjwa miguu.
Yeah, Serena.
Yes.
Okay, regarding contraceptives, you know, what the government has provided is condoms, and especially I think they get to be used by the older generation, not even the ones that we are talking about here. You know, when I say contraceptives, see, you understand it's broader than just condoms. And the situation at hand seems to have gone, you know, it's just away, as in it got too much. Now, when we talk about contraceptives, what do you think? Should schools and governments offer contraception, and especially in schools, even primary schools, and even those others that, you know, grown women will use? What do you think?
Okay, so let me expose let me expose Kenyans. So the biggest backlash against contraception for teenagers comes from the people who call themselves society, and we say that we cannot expose girls to contraception because they are young and it encourages sexual behavior and, you know, rot in morality, and we are teaching them bad manners. However, when it gets to around holiday season, when schools are being closed, a lot of healthcare providers get the same teenagers in clinics, in hospitals, for contraception. Right? And these girls do not bring themselves. They are brought by a parent. Because the parent says, my child anakuja holiday for 1 month. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing. Daktari mpatie contraception in case of anything, asishike mimba. But the same parent, when you now want to introduce contraception in a way that now you have educated the teenager, so that now they're not getting contraception because mami alinipeleka, but now it's because they understand. Because we've seen that, for example, when you go to teenagers, you speak with them, you explain to them, and they understand, then teenagers that have better sexual education actually take longer before they start having sex.
That's true.
So now you go, so what we have been proposing, what we fight for is that now they have all this information at their fingertips, so that then instead of now them being brought by force for contraception, they get to that point where they're like, hey, penye imefika nika siwezi jishikilia. But now I know, if I don't want to get pregnant, I can go to a health facility and we can talk about what is safe for my body, because people are different, and what works for you for contraception won't work for me. And then I can also know that instead of just contraception, I also have to have a condom so that I don't get STIs that come, because some people think the two are interchangeable, but they're not. You know, condoms are a form of contraception, but even greater is that they prevent STIs, which we've seen, they've been reports in media about how STIs is such a huge pandemic in the country right now, you know. So these are the conversations that we should be having very honestly.
That's true.
Tuache kujidanganya ati we are spoiling morals and we are the ones taking our children for contraception.
Kianani, that is the truth. Nafaa kuiongea vile iko.
Yes.
Yeah, and tuache you know, like, how to say, playing holier than thou, but
Exactly.
in reality things are not like that.
Kwa ground, yeah.
Kwa ground,
exactly.
vitu ni different.
Yeah.
Mercy, what is the, okay, place ya kanisa in this whole menace? We've seen the society, its stand is hapa kule. There are those who are for contraceptives, there are those who are, you know, still playing holier than thou. And anyway, the society's stand does not have a standard.
Exactly.
But the church plays a very big role in streamlining the society.
Yeah.
So in this whole thing, sijasikia sauti ya kanisa mahali popote, inajifichanga tu chini ya maji.
I feel the church will definitely vouch for abstinence. Yeah, as a church, they'll always go for abstinence. I feel, first of all, they have to accept that as much as they're talking to these girls, as we said, like the society, they have to accept that there's a possibility these people having sex. Yeah,
And they are having sex.
Yeah.
Now with what is happening, because even though now we talk of abstinence, it has not held water anywhere.
Yeah.
As in, a lot of girls are already pregnant and are mothers.
Yeah, we need to accept that.
Is
they're
the church
having
victimizing these ones because now they did not
the church?
abstain?
Yeah, the church. First of all, that's one thing for sure. Staunch Christians, that's for a fact.
They're causing
People will
mental health.
always, yeah, they'll always stigmatize you. They'll be like, ndio huyo sasa mtoto wa huyu na huyu. They'll isolate you.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I feel for the church has a huge role to play in this. They should stop stigmatizing them. Then they can also talk to the individuals, because these girls are they're not getting pregnant to their own. Someone is making them pregnant. Yeah, the church should also take action. Talk to these people, like mbona mnafanya hivyo wasichana wetu, they're young. Yeah, and when you tell them to stop stigmatizing the ladies, when a lady is abused, at least atakuwa na mtu wa kwenda kuongelea, because first of all, we have heard of people who are abused by people who are in the working church, maybe the pastors and all. So at our gender mbali, pia they play a part in this. Unaweza pata they're the ones, they are part of the people making them pregnant. So watu wache holier than thou, wache hiyo tabia, and let's accept that they're having sex, but let's talk to these people, they stop abusing our girls.
And embrace the fallen ones.
Yeah, and stigmatize and stop stigmatizing them. So that in case someone is abused somewhere, akuje, it'll be like she'll feel safe, he or she, because boys are also victims, will feel safe to come talk to someone. Because at home people are stigmatizing me. Here in church, na sizienda hospital, like where do I get help from? So as a church, the church should be a safe haven for these kids.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Serena, is there hope for these girls whose dreams have been watered down? Are they accepted back in school? Ama imeisha hivyo?
I'd say yes, there's hope. However, we, again, as a society, really need to be there to show them that there is hope. Because a lot of the times, once a girl gets pregnant in school, everyone gives up on them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sasa wewe ushawaste potential yako, as if potential
the black
was,
sheep of the community.
you know, but you can still, you know, it's not even like, yes, okay, it happened, you got pregnant, you got a baby. Let's say after you took a year off, you nursed your child, I don't see why principals in schools should refuse to admit these students back. I don't see why a teacher would now start to punish a teenager because she was pregnant last year, make life hard for a child in school because she was pregnant last year. You know, it's not your child, it's not your pregnancy, it's not you the child gave birth to. Why are you angry?
You know, I've remembered the late Magufuli. He declared war on
you know, it does not make sense. Like, people have, I don't understand why we have this obsession with you know, maintain purity at costs of the individual. You know, it's like you value the purity more than
and
the
not the
person.
individual. Yeah.
But the person is what is important. So for example, we know people, I have friends that got pregnant in high school, got their children. They are now doctors, you know, they are lawyers. They are doing whatever it is they want to do. They run event companies, they're in media. Nothing really, the child you give birth to does not, you don't give birth to the potential with them and then now it goes with them. It's still within you. You can still do whatever it is you want. We only need to support them.
Let me add on that. The fact that she said she has friends who are, after their pregnancy, they still went ahead and moved on with their lives. So I see for such a case, that's why the parent comes in. Zapata, I got pregnant and my parent was supportive enough and I was able to achieve my dreams later on. Because now, if I get pregnant and the parent I'm supposed to go to look up to and idea, yende wananijudge, where will I go from here? Who will help me? Yeah, so you find people who are stigmatized after their pregnancy, they never go far in life. But those ladies who get pregnant, then wazazi wanakubali because it's happened anyway, so what can we do about it? And they support the child mentally. They end up having their dreams anyway. Yeah, they end up achieving their dreams and becoming people because the child is here. Let's accept that. Stop stigmatizing these ladies.
I love that there is hope. No matter what happens, as long as someone still have the will to change their life and not to remain there fallen and stigmatized. And I think it's the work of a lot of parents and a lot of mentors, you and I and everybody who feels that there is a girl somewhere who has been victimized and, you know, and they seem to have no hope. Hold them. Tell them who they are. They are a child of God.
Yeah.
And in them there is the power and there is the will. If they have the will, they can still make a life for themselves. Because I also know a lot of people who had children when they were in high school and today they are great men and women, you know. Yeah. So I wish this one could continue, and especially the hope bit, because when there is hope, you know, when there is a way, there is hope. Yeah.
If you're supportive, they'll prosper.
Yeah. So because of time, give us your parting shot, Mercy.
Yes, so I was happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. And meanwhile, for respect, you can get us in Twitter, Instagram, and also in TikTok. Respect with a K. Yeah. These are. If you wish to continue the conversation, yeah, you'll get most of our conversations there.
Okay.
Yes. So, and as she has said, one of our main partners is really the Gender Violence Recovery Center. So they have branches in most major towns in Kenya. So from wherever anyone might be watching, and if they know someone or they themselves are affected, usually they provide most of their services for free. So the way we were saying, if you don't have anyone to talk to and you need support, that would be a good place to start, for example. So I'd like to leave that as my parting shot.
Yeah, and give us maybe the contact of maybe one of them.
Okay. Now.
Or you can just give us the places that you're telling us where someone can run into.
So most of the offices, if there's a Nairobi Women's Hospital within your vicinity, they should have a Gender Violence Recovery Center because it's the same entity.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been an honor having you. We've learned a lot, and we know now that there are so many risks involved in the teen pregnancies. We've known the causes. Now viewers should be aware and conscious that if I go this way, things will be bad for me. But we don't want to salvage such situations if you are not there yet. But if you're in that situation, there is hope. Like our guest said, there is hope. Where there is a will, there is a way, right?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for honoring our invite. It's been beautiful. We are honored and we are inspired by you. So thank you very much. Now, my dear viewer, it's been beautiful. I know you've learned a lot, and the one thing I love about this whole situation is that, and the whole conversation is that there is hope. No matter what happens in this life, if you are that girl who has had a child, yet you're a child, there is hope for you, and I hope you can find people who support you. You know, focus on the ones that support you, because at the end of the day, you don't want to, remain fallen. You have to wake up and dust yourself and move forward. And if you see someone is, trying to prey on you, don't fall for them. you know, jikaze, there's always a better tomorrow, you know. You don't have to fall because you lacked a pad. You can always improvise. There's always a way out, and there are always people who are willing to help you out. So don't fall for this. Don't haribu your life, you know. Choose yourself and choose your life. For the fallen one, you're not fallen. Wake up, we move together. So until next time, I wish to leave you here. Bye bye.